My fingers tremble as I type this. The doctor said talking about the trauma might help, but every time I close my eyes, I still see those amber eyes glowing in the darkness of the A75. I've been a nighttime delivery driver for 7 years, crisscrossing UK roads while the world sleeps. I never believed in superstitions until 3 weeks ago. The A75 has a bad reputation among us drivers. Not for its tricky curves or potholed asphalt, but for the stories. Those damn stories I used to laugh off over breakfast with colleagues. You hear about Jim? Ditched his truck on the A75 and walked back. Said something tried to rip the door off his rig. Rachel swore she saw a 10-foot-tall man by the roadside last week. When she returned with the cops, they only found massive footprints that didn't belong to any known animal. That night, the sky was clear. The full moon hung so big and bright, I barely needed my headlights. I turned on the radio to drown out the deafening silence that seemed to swallow the road. It was after Gretna Green that things got weird. The temperature inside the car plummeted out of nowhere. My breath formed little clouds in the air. The radio started crackling, flipping between static and distorted fragments of songs I'd never heard before. I saw a sign on the right. Welcome to Scotland. It was scratched with deep marks that looked like claw marks. A thick fog began to form, swallowing the road ahead. I slowed to 20 miles an hour, leaning over the steering wheel, straining to see the path. That's when the smell hit. A putrid stench of rotting flesh and damp earth. I checked to make sure all the windows were closed. They were. The first howl tore through the air like an air raid siren. It wasn't a normal wolf. It was too deep, almost too human. Every hair on my body stood on end. I floored it, even though I could barely see a few feet ahead. My knuckles were white from gripping the wheel. The second howl came from the right, much closer. Then from the left. Then behind. I was being surrounded. That's when my headlights caught a figure in the middle of the road. A man. Thank God, I thought. Someone to help. I stopped the car. The figure stood still, facing away from me. Hey, you okay? I shouted through the slightly open window. When it turned, my heart stopped. It wasn't a man, not entirely. Its face was elongated, with jutting jaws packed with razor-sharp teeth. Its large yellow eyes reflected my headlights like an animal. But the worst were its hands. Enormous claws dangling by its deformed body, dripping something dark onto the asphalt. In 1997, the first documented attack by this creature happened. On this very stretch, the driver barely survived. 12 others weren't so lucky. The creature took a step toward me, then another, and another. My body felt like lead. I couldn't move. When I finally snapped out of it and slammed the gas pedal, it was too late. Something heavy leapt onto the hood of my car, and 2 amber eyes stared at me through the windshield. What I'm about to tell you is what happened to me 3 weeks ago on that same road. An experience that made me understand why locals call the A75 the corridor of death. Snow was starting to fall as I resumed my drive that full moon night on the A75. I left the roadside cafe and the worried glances of the staff behind. "Don't take that road tonight, lad," an elderly woman had said as she handed me my chain. Not with that move. I brushed off the warning, like I'd ignored so many others over the year. I had a delivery to make in Glasgow by morning, and detours would cost me hours. I'd never been superstitious, but something about the tone in that woman's voice lingered in my mind as I drove into the pitch-black road. The radio was the first sign something was wrong. I was listening to BBC Radio 4 when the signal started to falter. I tried tuning to other stations, but they all turned to static. Then, for a few seconds, I heard a voice, low, distorted, whispering something I couldn't make out. I figured it was interference, maybe from a transmission tower in the nearby mountain. I switched off the radio and drove on inside. That's when I noticed the fog forming. The weather report hadn't mentioned fog that night. It was thick, almost tangible, and it seemed deliberate. It didn't blanket the road evenly, but moved as if it had a mind of its own, thickening and parting in patterns that seemed to follow my. Looking in the rearview mirror, I saw the road behind me was completely. The fog was only ahead, gathering thicker by the second. I slowed to 40 mph, then to 25, straining to see the road ahead. That's when I saw the first shadows. Flickers at the edge of my vision. Too fast to make out. Something was running parallel to the car, hidden by the tree line along the road. Something big and agile, keeping pace with my vehicle effortlessly. My heart raced. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and sped up. The shadows kept up. About 12 miles later, I spotted the lights of a gas station. I'd never felt such relief. I screeched into the parking lot and stopped by the only pump. I didn't need gas. I needed civilization, lights, people. That's when I noticed the other car parked nearby. A silver BMW with its front bumper completely smashed and scratched. Next to it, a man in his 40s smoked a cigarette with shaking hands. Our eyes met, and I recognized the same terror growing inside me. "You see something out there too?" I asked, approaching cautiously. He took a long drag and nodded. "Been driving this road for 10 years. Never seen anything like it." "What was it?" He hesitated, as if saying it out loud would make it too real. "I don't know exactly. Looked like a man, at first. Tall, way too tall. Standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, thought I was gonna hit him. And when my headlights lit it up," he swallowed hard. "That thing wasn't human. Stood on 2 legs but had a snout like a wolf. And the eyes, God, those yellow eyes." I glanced at his damaged car. "You hit it?" "No." He visibly shuddered. "It jumped on the car. Those scratches, they're from its claws. Tried to smash the windshield. I floored it in a panic and it fell off. Or jumped. I don't know." The gas station clerk appeared at the convenience store door. "You guys staying out there all night? I'm closing in 5. The man stubbed out his cigarette. "I'm waiting for dawn. No way I'm going back on that road tonight. Not for all the money in Scotland." I thought about my delivery, the deadline, my boss. "I can't wait." "Then you're a dead man," he said flatly, heading into the store. I walked back to my car, wondering if I should rethink this. But pride is a funny thing. The same pride that made me ignore the warnings also kept me from admitting the fear clawing at my chest. I started the engine. The gas station lights quickly faded in the rearview mirror. The fog swallowed the road again. This time, I was alone. That's when I saw it for the first time, standing at the edge of the road. Just for a second, caught in my headlights. Tall, far taller than any man, standing on 2 legs, its body covered in dark fur. It turned its head as I passed, its amber eyes glowing with an unnatural reflection. In the blink of an eye, it vanished into the forest. My foot trembled on the gas pedal. The car lurched, and the engine sputtered briefly. The dashboard flickered. All the warning lights flashed on at once. "No, no, no," I muttered, smacking the dashboard as if that would fix it. The car stalled twice more, then silent. I was now completely stopped in the middle of the A75, surrounded by fog, with the first signs that whatever was out there was no longer just a legend. The silence that filled the car when the engine died was more terrifying than any sound. Just the ticking of the cooling motor and my ragged breathing. The dashboard clock read 1:37 a.m. I tried the ignition over and over, nothing but a weak click. "Come on, come on," I whispered, turning the key harder. "Don't leave me." My phone battery was at 62%, but as the woman at the cafe had warned, there was no signal. Not a single bar. I was completely cut off in one of the most desolate stretches of the A75, at least 10 miles from the gas station I'd just left. I weighed my options. I could try walking back to the station, but something told me that would be suicide. I could wait until dawn inside the locked car, probably the safest choice. Or I could try to fix the problem, which would mean getting out of the... I grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment, testing it nervously. The beam was weak, but worked. I took a deep breath and reached for the door handle. That's when I heard the first howl. It wasn't like the wolf howls you hear in documentaries. It was deeper, more guttural, almost as if it came from a human. The sound seemed to come from everywhere, echoing through the trees lining the road. I froze, my hand still on the... A second howl came, closer this time, followed by a... They were circling me. Then came the sound that still haunts my sleepless nights. Scraping on the car's roof. Slow, deliberate, metallic. Something with claws was on top of the vehicle. I looked up, as if I could see through the metal. The scraping continued, moving from the back of the roof to the front, like the creature was crawling across the car. The first blow to the windshield nearly made me scream. A crack spiderwebbed across the tempered glass. Then another, and another. Something was trying to get in. With trembling hands, I aimed the flashlight at the windshield. That's when I saw it fully for the first time. The creature was crouched on the hood. Its body was vaguely human, but covered in thick, dark fur. Its legs were unnaturally long, with knees bending backward in a way that defied biology. Its arms ended in deformed human hands, with elongated fingers tipped with sharp black claws that scraped against the glass. But it was the face that paralyzed me with terror, a grotesque hybrid, part man, part wolf. An elongated skull, a jutting snout filled with jagged yellowed teeth. Pointed ears twitched independently, like a dog on alert. And the eyes, God, those eyes! Large, amber, with vertical pupils like a cat's, glowing with malevolent intelligence. The creature tilted its head, studying me like a predator sizing up its prey. Its lips curled back, revealing more of those horrific teeth in what almost looked like a smile. Then it threw its head back and howled again, the sound now deafening from being so close. The windshield cracked further under the pressure of its claws. Tiny shards of glass fell onto the dashboard. The creature began pounding methodically on the glass, testing its strength, knowing it was only a matter of time before it broke through. I was frozen, hypnotized by terror, unable to look away from those amber eyes. I realized then that the creature was toying with me, savoring my fear. It could have shattered the glass easily, but it was drawing out the moment, relishing my panic. "What do you want?" I screamed, knowing it was pointless. In response, the creature slammed the windshield with renewed force. The crack spread like a web. Another blow, and small chunks of glass started to fall. A third, and a fist-sized hole opened. The icy night air rushed into the car, carrying a smell I'll never forget. Wild musk, damp earth, and something metallic like blood. The creature shoved its claw through the hole, widening it, tearing away larger pieces of glass. In absolute panic, I threw myself into the back seat, as far from those claws as I could get. The creature let out a sound, half growl, half laugh, and forced its arm deeper inside. Its claws were now inches from my face, snapping open and closed as if they could already feel my flesh. I shut my eyes, certain these were my final moments. Then a miracle happened. A faint sound, almost drowned out by the creature's snarls. The click of the car's electrical system coming back to life. The dashboard lights flickered on. Without thinking, I lunged for the driver's seat, turned the key, and floored. The gas pedal, the engine roared back to life, and the car lurched forward, throwing the creature off balance. In the rearview mirror, I saw the beast tumble off the roof, rolling on the asphalt before standing in one fluid, unnatural motion. Our eyes met one last time through the mirror, its amber gaze burning with a silent promise that this wasn't over. I drove like a madman, ignoring the dangerous curves, the speed limit signs, the fog obscuring my view. I didn't stop until I saw the first lights of a village in the distance, nearly 30 minutes later. I parked under a streetlight in the deserted town square. My hands were still shaking on the steering wheel. I looked at the shattered windshield, the deep scratches on the roof and hood. Proof that I hadn't imagined a thing. But the worst was yet to come, because what I discovered in that small village in the hours that followed made my encounter with the creature feel like just the beginning of something far bigger and more terrifying. The Black Hound pub was the only place open at that hour of the morning. I pushed through the heavy oak door with my hands still trembling and was greeted by the warmth of a fireplace and the curious stares of a few patrons. The bartender, an older man with grey hair and a weathered face, looked up as I approached the counter. His eyes flicked from my pale face to my torn clothes. "Trouble on the road?" he asked, already pouring a shot of whiskey without me asking. Something attacked me on the A75, I managed. My voice barely recognizable. A creature. Looked like a man, but also a wolf. I expected laughter or skeptical glances. Instead, a heavy silence fell over the pub. The bartender exchanged looks with an elderly man sitting in a dark corner. "Malcolm," the bartender called to the old man. "I think you should talk to this guy." The man who approached limped noticeably, leaning on a carved wooden cane. He must have been over 80, but his blue eyes held a piercing clarity. "Full moon, wasn't it?" he asked, sitting beside me. "Always the full moon." I nodded, unable to speak. "We know what you saw, lad. Around here we call it the A75 Werewolf. But it's not like the stories you're used to." Malcolm explained that in 1953, a man named Douglas Blackwood was in a terrible accident on that same road. He was a local hunter, notorious for his cruelty to animals. On a full moon night, his car crashed into an ancient tree the locals considered sacred, a remnant of old Celtic rituals. They found the car, but never found Douglas, Malcolm continued. Thought he'd been thrown into the forest by the impact. Searched for weeks. Nothing. He took a sip of his drink before going on. The first stories about the creature started a month later, the next full moon. A shepherd swore he saw a wolfman lurking near his flock. No one believed him, of course, but then the attacks began. First, animals were found mutilated. Then, drivers reported a humanoid figure on the road. In 1997, the first documented attack. A trucker nearly killed when something tried to rip the door off his rig. The old Celts believed spilling blood on sacred ground brought a curse, Malcolm said. Doomed to live between two worlds, neither man nor beast. Blackwood's curse. Why doesn't the police do anything? I asked. Malcolm gave a bitter laugh. What would they say? That they're hunting a werewolf? Besides, it's clever. Never leaves solid evidence. The bodies they find are chalked up to accidents or wild animal attacks. According to Malcolm, the creature always strikes on full moon nights, always on the same stretch of the A75. It's as if it's bound to that place, reliving its transformation endlessly. But why attack drivers? I asked. Revenge, he replied simply. A car turned him into that. Now he hates everyone who crosses his road. The old man glanced at my hands and frowned. Did it touch you? Only then did I notice the scratches on my wrist, likely from when the creature reached through the shattered windshield. 3 parallel marks. Shallow, but undeniable. That's not good, Malcolm muttered. Not good at all. He explained that, according to Celtic legend, those marked by the creature carry part of the curse. They wouldn't fully transform, but they'd feel the call of the full moon. Some even saw through the beast's eyes in their dream. It's like he's building a pack, Malcolm concluded. Each person marked becomes an extension of him in a way. I left the pub at dawn, my head swimming with Malcolm's stories. Part of me wanted to believe it was all local superstition, spun to explain attacks by some ordinary animal or even a human killer. But then, why did my wounds burn so much? I continued my trip and made my delivery in Glasgow. Though hours late, my boss didn't buy the story about the windshield being smashed by a wild animal, but he was too busy to fire me on the spot. In the days that followed, I tried to get back to normal. The car was repaired, and the marks on my wrist began to heal. I almost convinced myself I'd blown the whole thing out of proportion in my mind. Until last night, the full moon returned. I woke up drenched in sweat at 3 a.m., my wrist scars itching unbearable. I got up to splash water on my face, and when I looked in the bathroom mirror, I got the deepest shock of my life. For a moment, just a moment, my eyes weren't they were amber, with vertical pupils, glowing in the dim light of the bath. I blinked, and they were normal again. But I knew what I'd... Worse still, I felt an inexplicable urge to drive, to get in my car and head back to that specific stretch of the A75, as if something was calling me. I fought the impulse, locking myself in my house and swallowing sleeping pills until dawn. But I know it'll be harder to resist the next full moon, and the one after that may be impossible. I'm sharing this story as a... If you need to travel the A75, avoid the stretch between Gretna Green and... especially during a full moon. Don't make the same mistake I did. And if you've recently driven that road and noticed unexplained scratches on your body afterward, well then, it's already too late. You and I both know what's coming when the moon is full again. You're already feeling the call of the road, aren't you? That inexplicable urge to drive the A75 under the moonlight? Don't worry, we'll meet there soon, and you won't be alone anymore. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel.